I could see her loosen the grip from the oh shit handle that hung above her head in the 1994 blue Chevy truck I drove her to school in. Her hand fell into her lap and her foot slowly came to a stop. I am the product of my sister not trusting my judgment, but anyone's for that matter. I am the reason my sister nearly has a heart attack every time we come to the intersection at Lila and Harvell. I cause her to get tense anytime someone stops a little too fast for her liking or tries to make it through a yellow light. I came to the intersection that was nothing more than a routine by this point, but it was different today. There was traffic like I had never seen before. As my sister and I sat there in silence, we both looked back and forth at the standing traffic going east and the standing, non-existent traffic going west. In the meantime, I was trying to shoot across both lanes of traffic to make it to the other side. I squinted through the remaining frost on my windshield and my windshield wipers that were helping me to see. It was my time to make it across the intersection. The second my foot hit that gas pedal, as much as I thought it was my time, it wasn't. "Jackie!" Caitlin screamed, only seconds before the loudest, most terrifying sound crept into my truck. I had no response. I knew what was happening. I could see out of my peripheral vision that there was a car coming our way at approximately 35 miles an hour, with no intentions of stopping. Because the traffic going west, closest to me, was stopped, of a red light, I assumed the traffic going east was stopped too. It wasn't. One thought ran through my head. How can I get my truck across the intersection without the oncoming car hitting my sister's door, which in any case would kill her? In the split second I had to think of a game plan, I had it. I was going to swerve out and around the oncoming car, leaving not a scratch on my truck, just a couple phews from everyone who saw the near accident. Well, my plan was half successful, only there ended up being a big scratch on my truck, and my opponent's car, well, it was practically non-existent after I was done with it. My opponent smashed into the bed of my truck, which sent us sailing into a pole, where my truck came to a halting stop, along with my head, which had hit the window. I noticed that Caitlin was no longer on her side of the truck anymore. She was sitting right next to me, practically on top of me. "Are you okay?" I asked Caitlin as I checked her body to make sure it was all intact. My mother, the cops, and the ambulance all showed up at one time. At this point, I was scared I was going to get in trouble. What was my mom going to say about the truck I had wrecked that had gotten passed down to me from my father? Was I going to get a ticket? Things started to smooth out after we got our story out in the open for those who didn't see it. My opponent started to calm down, and my parents were just happy to see my sister and I alive. And as for the cops, they weren't very impressed. I had walked away with a reckless driving ticket. But that all took a back seat to the guilt that was haunting me for putting my sister through all this. The one thing that my sister and I had stronger than most people was trust. We trusted each other with everything. We leaned on trust to hold up our relationship. Should I be guilty 4 years later because of a few scars and a cramped neck that she gets every now and then? Should my mind jump to February 13th every time I see her hand slowly meet the handle above her? Like all scars, once they happen, they are there to stay. More often than not, you forget about scars that have physically and mentally impacted you. They tend to fade away. But sooner or later, they will be noticeable.